Here we go.
What up, what up, what up?
Introduce
us, Lee.
It's been a while, but everybody, welcome to another edition of the Savage Sunday podcast. We need to say right away that we finally, after all this time, have the third party to the Sunday Savage podcast. Probably longer.
Probably longer than that, yeah.
Much longer, actually. We want to introduce Mark Anthony Salaby to the podcast.
What up, my people?
Insert applause. He's giving himself his own applause. Right? Hey. All right.
Thank you. Happy to be on board.
Okay. Talk about yourself. This is your first time on the podcast? Give everybody a little bit about yourself.
A little bit of love?
Yeah.
No, hold on. Let me start it off.
Oh, wow.
Interjected and I haven't even started.
I know, right? Jeez, times are hard.
For those that don't know, there's a ghost in the salsa community that just shows up, leaves his dopeness on the dance floor, and then will disappear for like months to come. And his name is Mark Anthony Salaby.
I mean, I can't even do better than that right now. Nah, I mean, I've been in the scene. It's going on almost 7 years now.
Yep.
Yeah, going on almost 7 years. It just kind of showed up. I didn't know what was what in the beginning, and then I met two dope dancers. Started from there, and I've just kind of been doing my thing ever since.
Wow. You're like Lee. It's so plain. Can I give you an intro?
Sure.
Can I?
Sure,
okay.
you do the intro.
All right, Mark Anthony, not to be confused with the singer, because a lot of people, anytime I introduce Mark Anthony to people, they're like, Mark Anthony, I know Mark Anthony, but they think the singer for some reason.
All right, M-A-R-K.
Yes. He's a person of color, all right, who's been dancing in the Toronto dance scene for 7 years. He's danced covertly with some teams that I won't name because I understand that he likes that position of being, incognito. But he's a very accomplished dancer and a very sociable person who spends half of his time dancing and half of his time conversing with people at socials.
I'll take it.
Yep.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Holy shit. So
right,
do you have anything to say about you at this point in time?
Nah.
No, don't worry. He's not.
I'm good.
We'll get into him later. It's okay.
I think we covered it.
All right. So what's up, man? How you been?
Well, since we last did this...
we don't have to cover all that.
That's
a lot. That's going to be a whole podcast.
We have lives to live.
Yeah.
Time's ticking.
Since we last did this, I think the world has changed a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Like, where do we even begin? So we know what we're going to talk about today. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that's, familiar with us or familiar with the fact that, they saw my Facebook exchange.
Oh, gosh.
We're on that already. Yes, people.
Hold on.
He's like assuming that everyone has seen the Facebook exchange. You need to describe it because not everyone's going to be privy to what happened with you and a certain somebody on Facebook.
Well, as we are just having a conversation, I have not decided how I'm going to approach this.
Okay.
So I'm going to do this on the fly.
All right.
But basically, obviously, we've come to this. I don't want to use a big word here, but we've come to this crazy point in time, and where if people are not familiar with what has happened, it seems that the death of a gentleman by the name of George Floyd, who was killed by a police officer on camera, who couldn't breathe for had a knee on his neck for 9 minutes, basically. It has sparked this large public outrage, which really should have started in 2016 with the Colin Kaepernick movement. But it kind of is, it's been a perfect storm of events, basically. Right? Because in 2016, we still all had the same distractions that we would normally be dealing with. So we would be working, 40 hours a week. So we don't even have time to want to protest or care or anything like that. Then you have distractions such as sports, which I've always felt is a huge distraction for people in order from seeing and focusing on all the issues. The fact that we had the pandemic where people had to be at home, people are bored. The fact that sports got canceled meant there was no live entertainment and you can only do so much Netflix. Led us to this point in time where we could actually focus and people could actually see that this is what we've been talking about. Because so much shit has happened where it's kind of like, I don't want to say that people don't care, but it's easy just to focus on your own life and what you got to do when you do not have the time to pay attention. And maybe I'm some sort of conspiracy theorist to a certain degree, but I feel that this is how things are rigged to keep people distracted so they cannot focus on the things at hand.
Okay.
And without the situation being as it is, this is how we got to this point. Those are my feelings.
Okay.
If 2020 didn't happen and that didn't happen, then it would have been exactly as the original autopsy of George Floyd. Oh, he died because he had previous medical conditions. He had a weak heart.
Yeah.
Not like a motherfucking knee to your neck and you can't breathe for 10 minutes. Can't exacerbate a weak heart.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, while being handcuffed, which is, if you've ever been handcuffed before, it's not a position of great respiratory health. You kind of feel restricted in breathing as soon as you have your arms behind your back and you don't have the choice of bringing them into a more comfortable position. So just to add on to that.
It's true.
I will say this. We live in a world right now where everybody has information right at the tips of your fingers. I wouldn't call them necessarily distractions as much as stimulation. I think that right now, in the world that we live in 2020, we have far too much stimulation. What happened to quiet? What happened to being with yourself and with your inner thoughts?
Okay.
What happened to having a conversation with somebody? When was the last time you, Lee, or Andrew, you had a real conversation with somebody and their phone wasn't going off?
Yeah.
How often do you talk to somebody in today's world and their phone's going off and they're like, 1 second, 1 second?
Yeah.
Or they're having a conversation, I'm guilty, and they're texting and they're half looking at you and they're half listening, but they're still texting. Like, we have a lot of stimulation. I mean, you look at Instagram, you look at Twitter, you look at TikTok. All of those things are ways to pass the time.
It's true.
15 years ago, we didn't have that.
No.
I think that COVID has gotten rid of the stimulation because everybody has to stay home and their forms of entertainment aren't available. Other things that have been brewing underneath, if you're talking about the calm waters, things that have been brewing underneath are finally coming to light. These are issues that have stemmed far before Kaepernick, far before 2016.
Oh no, absolutely.
Right? We have inequality and abundance in the world, and it doesn't just have to do with the black community, but that's right at the forefront right now. But there's inequality everywhere. So I think it's a matter of just paying attention, and people are finally saying, enough's enough. And to your guys' point, it's blown over. We have a lot of sources of frustration today.
Yeah.
From COVID. I mean, everybody wants to get out of their house.
Yeah.
Yep.
People are sick and tired of being at home, sick and tired of not being able to live their AKA normal life. Right? So this lit a fire.
Yeah.
It was a big drum of gasoline, and someone just lit a fire.
Yeah.
Lit a match and threw it in there.
Facts.
And that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Facts.
I feel like to tack onto your point, like 15, 20 years ago, something would happen. If something would happen of this magnitude, everyone was glued. Everyone had one news source or two news sources telling you what was going on with it, and the news very much created the narrative of whatever was happening, and it was like the law, or it was Bible, so to speak. And now that's changed. So I guess this is the other side, like saying that there is a positive for things happening in this way.
True.
We would never have gotten so much information on the George Floyd, situation, for lack of a better word, or massacre or murder, if it wasn't for social media, if it wasn't for the advancement of technology, if it wasn't for the overstimulation, because we got how many different viewpoints of, of what happened. Like the original viewpoint that I saw was just the one officer, he who shall not be named, and he had his knee on his neck. That was it, and the police car was blocking George Floyd's body, so you didn't know what was going on even behind the police car. And then I'm pretty sure if that was back 20, 25 years ago, we would only get that footage, if any footage at all, right? Now everything is so open, there's no way to suppress information. You know what I mean? So there's a downside that there's an information overload and there's an overstimulation, but at the same time, it allows for the absolute truth to come through, right? So just to play devil's advocate a bit.
No. And you're absolutely right in the sense that, I mean, when we were talking about, let's go back to the 90s. Rodney King.
Yep.
When he got beaten by the 4 LA cops, basically, there was pretty much, if there was not that one passerby with whatever, in God's name, video camera he must have had at that point in time filming it, then that would not have come out, and that wouldn't have led to the LA riots at this point in time. With the way technology is now, it's impossible to control a narrative from solely the media, which is important.
Absolutely. Yep. Everybody today has that power. Everybody has a camera. Everybody has the ability to upload that content.
Yes.
And once it's on the net, it's out there.
Yep.
To Drew's point, once upon a time, late 90s, I mean, let's talk even just about COVID.
Sure.
And why we are where we are right now. You think that 20, 30 years ago, even in Canada, you would have heard about COVID cases in China the way you do today?
No.
Would you have been able to go on Google and track COVID cases in real time?
No.
And no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
If you were in the Caribbean, you would be so isolated you wouldn't even know what COVID was.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hear about it. But because of the way that we are in today's world with that interconnectivity, you have that access, you have that information. So stimulation, overstimulation, yes, it can be a problem, but it also has benefits.
Yes.
Right?
True.
We have that information.
Yeah.
Right?
The information is at hand if you're willing to actually look for it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That being said, I don't want to stray too far away from this, but I do want to put this out there, and spread this information. My people of color. Okay. As far as COVID-19 goes, it has been documented that 80% of the cases, fatal cases of COVID-19, have died from a vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D is something that you can normally get naturally from the sun, but if you're of a darker persuasion, like everybody that I'm sitting with right now, our pigmentation blocks us from access to that natural vitamin D. So supplement up is what I'm saying. Get that vitamin D through foods, through tablets, whatever you got to do. That's the best way to combat this. Don't wait for a vaccine. Find a way to build up your immune system. Okay.
So are we? So I need to know. Are we still talking about George Floyd?
Yeah.
I do want to mention.
I just want to make sure that the cohesiveness is still there. It's been a while. We're a little bit rusty, but
going back to the George Floyd point. For those of you who have not and are listening to this podcast right now, I heavily encourage you to go and watch the video footage for yourself. There are multiple clips actually on YouTube where you can see the story sewn together piece by piece. So it's not just snippets anymore. You can actually get a valid idea of the whole story through YouTube. They took various clips from the corner store and from various others, the bystanders.
Bystander surveillance cameras.
Amalgamated everything into some footage that you can view online.
Yep.
A lot of people are unaware of the fact that bystanders were yelling at the cops at the time, telling them to check the man's pulse.
Yep.
Because he was unconscious, and you can see in the footage from some of the clips, he's unconscious. He is not moving.
Yep.
His face is darker color, and there's a bystander yelling at the cops saying, "Check his pulse, bro.
Yeah.
Check his pulse. He ain't moved."
And as a police officer, you're a first responder. That is your job, is your responsibility to administer any aid to someone who is in need of it if you're at the scene. So it's one of their responsibilities. They were supposed to, even if it doesn't matter, if you killed somebody, if you're dying and you're not endangering anyone anymore, they are supposed to make sure that you arrive alive to whatever precinct or hospital, whatever it is. So, sorry to interrupt.
It's kind of debatable at this point in time what the function is beyond like what they actually say the official policy is supposed to be.
No, you are. Well, I don't know what it is in the U.S. or in Minneapolis in particular, but my brother's godfather, who's very much a part of our lives, is part of the Peel Police. Actually, he recently retired, and he always talks about that. Anytime there is a killing of a black youth or a black male in the U.S. that just basically gets put under the rug as quickly as possible via suspensions or paid leave or whatever it is. We always talk about this, and it's just one of those things. They're supposed to be helping you, and instead they just try to make it the path of least resistance for themselves. And unfortunately, many times that path is death for the person who should be being protected by the police. Right. So
I mean, I might get some flack for this. I'm not one to hate on cops. I think that they do have a purpose in our society. I truly believe that. I'm not one for anarchism, and I don't believe that we can live in a free police state. Well, we'll touch on that later.
But
we will touch on that later. One of our attendees has some very particular insights about that, but I'll leave that for now. But I will say this. Specifically concerning the cops in the United States at large, there's the ideal, there's what's supposed to be, and then there's what is.
Yeah,
I'm gonna leave it at that.
For sure.
Facts.
You know, I'm gonna get real nerdy, and if I get these facts wrong, call me out on it.
Before you go, let me just interject this here.
Okay.
Because I want you to do your thing. But Mark Anthony said that everybody should watch the George Floyd video. It may not make you comfortable to watch that. If you have a supreme uncomfortability with watching that, I have an interesting idea for you. Watch the first season of the X-Men animated series.
Sure.
The X-Men animated series, and shout out to Daniel Cater, because he's the one that brought this to light. Because I was having a private conversation with him, and I used my Justice League argument and how people rose up against the Justice League because they had too much power.
All right, y'all
and he mentioned to me, yo, look at the X-Men. Sure. Stan Lee said that his inspiration for that came from the civil rights movement.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So if you watch the first season of the X-Men animated series from the 90s and look at their interaction between them, government, and Sentinels, who I deem as the police, then you will get a clear idea of what it is that we're talking about. With that said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but...
And also, if we're going to do that, because I'm also a nerd, just imagine Professor Xavier as Martin Luther King and Professor X as Malcolm X. That will give you even more nuance to what exactly is happening in that first season. Right?
For those of you listening, I have no analogy.
Or sorry, Magneto. Sorry, I said
not
Professor
a nerd.
X. Magneto as...
Magneto is Malcolm X.
Yeah, sorry.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That just gives you more, yeah.
Yo, that blew my mind.
It's another level. Stan Lee actually has been on record saying that those were his inspirations for those two.
Holy.
And their interactions.
Holy shit.
What was I going to get into, yeah? Man, I see this. That's the thing about listening, y'all. When you listen and you really listen, you don't hold on to shit. Because I forgot what I was gonna say, but it's okay. We can move on. They'll probably come back to me after.
All right, so going back to the agenda, what's first up?
Yeah.
What's first up?
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
I'm gonna save. I'm gonna save the Facebook interaction for later.
Oh boy.
Don't worry. It's okay. Here's what I'll say about this in the preliminary.
All right.
Before I move on to something else.
Dun dun dun.
You know what? After we were supposed to do the podcast on Friday, and after I was here chilling with Mark, there was other inspiration that came up throughout the weekend because, you know what? The internet is a crazy thing. So smartphones are a crazy thing. You start talking about something around your smartphone, it starts feeding you the information that it think that you might dive into. So possibly having my conversations with you, possibly the types of things I've been looking up, possibly the conversations that I've been having has been feeding particular information to me. And so it has... What it has done, it has changed the route that I was originally going to go.
It reveals your own algorithm to you.
See, now you're just making me sound like a puppet.
Yo, let's not get into that. But go ahead, man.
But anyways, so I'm not going to go the route that I was originally going to go because, yeah, I felt a certain ways about that interaction. Now I'm in a place where I'm just going to assess the information at hand, although I do need to speak on that a little bit.
Okay.
And that's not going away.
This is preliminary, right?
This is preliminary.
That was a long preliminary.
This guy is flexing.
Right?
I've been saying this. I've been saying this to people that have messaged me about this and to ask me about this, and no matter what, we are having that talk.
Oh my god.
He says preliminaries, but I feel like we're in the final stages.
Yeah, you're right.
Of, like, season playoff.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Like you're standing.
Yeah. Like, yo, we need these wins.
I'm sorry.
Oh man.
Yo, y'all just walk me. I'm sorry. I've been a big boxing fan for a long time. So, like, it's like when you see the dudes in the back and they're hitting the mitts because they have to work up that sweat. That's what just happened right now. That's that preliminary. so we're not gonna get into that.
I tell you, I don't even know what happened.
We're not gonna get into that.
I don't even know if I agree with you or not. Yeah,
That's fine.
In terms of everything. So we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait, and we're gonna flesh this out properly.
Speaking as one who was witness to that.
Yeah.
I have some mixed feelings about the whole interaction in general.
Okay.
As a bystander.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
As a bystander.
Let's get into it after.
You are allowed to feel however you want to feel. All I ask is during that time, you do not interrupt me.
Oh boy! All right, let's get into it.
There is no talking to me during that time.
All right, back on topic.
Let's get into topics. Let's hold that for later. That's gonna be an impassioned 30-minute of Lee just talking on his own. Let's go.
First off, let me just say that I missed you guys. It's been so long.
We missed you too, Lee.
Until like
yourself.
Literally, yeah, whatever. You hear, right?
For all those listening, we are socially distancing. We're 6 feet apart.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah. Jesus Christ. So I did come across an interesting article the other day, and it's not that I 100% believe in the article, right? But it does bring up an interesting concept, and I think now we have to have radical ideas if you want radical change, and at least find a way to meet take these radical ideas and maybe somehow meet in the middle, or meet 3/4 of the way before coming to like a better solutions for how we deal with everybody, like better interactions, better everything, better society.
Okay.
The idea. So this was an article, opinion piece in the Huffington Post. Also, it's part of a podcast called Sandra and Nora, and basically the idea was defund the police.
Okay.
So basically, that article basically, I'm just gonna sum it up and give you the gist of it. The idea was, well, what is it that the police actually do, as in the sense of, and I'm gonna give you my interpretation of it. So, how effective are they as a deterrent? Okay, and where I would go with that is, if you're in poverty and you feel like you need to do what you need to do, and you're part of certain circumstances, you're just gonna do what you have to do anyways to make ends meet. If you feel that you need to, if you've been pushed to that limit. So that was one interesting aspect of it. The other is that you could bolster up other services, basically, under the justice system, but that have their own powers. So, for instance, what if there was like a police type unit in social services? Is what I mean. Instead of enacting the actual police, what if you had a social services police unit, and you had different units that were trained differently to deal with different situations? Because, as it stands right now, from what we've seen, the police do not know how to deal with mental illness. They, regardless of training, up until now, when they shot, his name was Regis. I'm sorry. Forgive me for not remembering his name. In Brampton, he actually called the police himself because he was having an episode, and yet they killed him. So they're clearly not equipped to deal with that situation. So what if these funds are instead of going to the police, are allocated towards these types of services? The other thing that I would say to that is, I'm gonna bring up a different argument in a second.
Can I speak to that argument before you get to that one?
Let's talk about the argument.
Yeah,
go for it.
So I actually remember part of my point. It kind of applies to what we're talking about. So a long time ago, and my memory's kind of shaky, but I'll do my best. In Plato's Republic, have you guys ever read it? A little bit here and there. So they talk about how to build a city that is balanced and just, that someone could live in and not have to be the victims of any wrongdoings, right? Everyone contributes to the city in a way that allows the city to self-perpetuate itself, to make it better and enriching it as it continues to exist. And specifically to the police, they say that the warriors of this city should own no property. And the reason why is that they should be able to be people of the people. They should know the area that they're operating in better than everyone else, because they don't seclude themselves to their home. They are able to keep lodging at other people's homes. The city contributes some money towards, or 10% of what they have, not necessarily monetary gains, but what they have towards the warriors to fund them. So like a warrior wouldn't have a home. He would just literally stay at this person's place and eat with their family, and at the same time protect them. So he's also invested in the community that they're protecting. It's not just, when he sees somebody, it's not just a person, a civilian, it's like he knows their name, right? That's the idea of the warriors of the Republic. The thing is, a lot of police officers, they don't know who they're policing at all. And I get what you're saying, that there should be different subsects of the police in different departments like social services or so on and so on. But the main problem is police training, period. There's a meme that's going around right now saying that a barber or an esthetician or whatever, a hairstylist has to train for 1,500 hours in order to get their certificate. Police is only 750.
I thought it was like 850 or something.
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Speaking to that specifically, I will say that.
Okay, go ahead. I'm not done, by the way.
Okay. All right. I'm just about the cops training.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though that you would think in today's modern society that cops would be highly trained in their understanding of the law. That is not the that is not the case at all.
No.
I will let the listeners know that is not the case. They have an idea about the spirit of the law, the letter of the law, but they don't have a keen understanding of the law. You cannot even compare the understanding of the law of a lawyer to a cop.
No.
You cannot.
Not even paralegal to a cop.
Most of the cops that are even, for example, road cops or cops who issue parking tickets, traffic cops, they can't speak specifically, not all of them, but a large majority of them cannot speak specifically to articles and infraction bylaws. That's absolutely correct. So you have to understand that these are the people that are policing and enforcing you, right? And I'm going to let you continue, Drew, and then I got something to say.
Just tacking onto you. You threw the alley. I'll put the oop in. So they basically, they're not equipped to be out there with this type of power. You know, they have basically the power to stop violence and invoke violence to stop violence. That is a huge responsibility, you know, especially, and I get, being a cop is a dangerous job by nature, because you're basically sent out there to deal with the things that are the most dangerous happening at the time, usually, right? Or emergencies, basically. And usually their job has to deal with violence more than all the other services like EMS and firefighters and, you know, all these other services that are along the same level as being a police officer. But they have to deal with the human psyche a lot more. And if you're unequipped to deal with that, you're just going to revert to the easiest ways to get to solve a problem, which is either shrugging it off, you know what I mean, not taking it seriously, or taking it too seriously. And this is what we've been seeing. This is what's been going viral. Either people not doing anything, being too soft, or being way too hard. And they don't understand how to do anything in between. They look at their weapon as a like the gavel in that a judge has in a courtroom, which basically can decide whatever. You know, they hug that weapon. But that's the experience of the police in North America. And over in the UK, they don't have guns, right? They have
I was gonna bring that up too.
Other things that they have to use, and they know those other things are not ultimate. They're not like an ultimate source of destruction. They have to figure out alternate ways to deal with the situation. And even though they're not perfect, they are much more successful in terms of the force aspects of things. They still could use more understanding of how to deal with people psychologically, whether it's mental illness or whatever, but that should be part of police training. There shouldn't be a special division sent for that, because the problem that's going to occur is that someone's going to call the wrong police to a scene, and we're going to still end up in the same exact situation. People, it's putting the burden on the people to call a specific number that is specific to a situation, rather than when you're in a mind state of emergency, you should just have the clarity. The thing that should come clearest to you is, I need to call the emergency number, and that's it. I shouldn't have to scroll through my phone and go, I gotta call social services police or whatever. It should just be 911, right? So that's what I mean. Like, everyone has to have this type of training, because it's not always going to be the perfect person arriving to the scene of the crime to deal with the situation, right? This is my concern with that one point. That's it.
I think personally for me, the idea of us decentralized, essentially, is what he's referring to. Decentralized policing. Right now, we have a unified body who's responsible for many different things, diverse responsibilities.
Yep.
They're responsible for responding to domestic disputes,
Mm-hmm.
cases of violence.
Yes.
And of course, you have civil suits, issuing subpoenas, etc. A mass of different things.
Traffic.
I think that having some cross training and have specialized police for different things, I actually think that's an effective means, in my opinion, for handling that. Now, to your point, Drew, right now the way that dispatch operates can handle that, because right now, I mean, it's not a perfect system, but they do ask you succinct and direct questions
Yep.
to get a gauge of what kind of emergency services
For sure.
are required to respond. So if a bystander were to call right now and say, hey, I am having a domestic dispute, they're going to dispatch police officers.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say, hey, I'm bleeding on the side of the road, send somebody, they're probably going to dispatch police officers to see why you're bleeding on the side
Yeah.
of the road, but as well they'll dispatch fire and EMS.
Yeah.
So I think that having a central dispatch agency to kind of handle those sub numbers, I think that's an effective way to handle that. So even if we were to decentralize and you have a specific policing unit just for social services, if you say, hey, as soon as you say child involved, you have keywords.
Okay.
If child is mentioned, all of a sudden that person on the dispatch line should be trained enough to understand, you know what, this is an issue with a child. I need to send this specific social unit who's trained to handle that.
Sure.
I think that what we can all agree on here, even though we have different ideas, is that more training and more education is probably required.
100%.
Again, I'm not slapping down cops. I have quite a few friends who are actually police officers, and at least for me, they do a great job of handling me. But that's my, I guess, opinion. That's been my experience. Now, unfortunately for my American brothers, I probably can't say the same.
No.
Right? I mean, we'll get to that, but Lee and I were talking the other day, and he was saying for a large, correct me if I'm wrong, for a large amount of black brothers, their experience with cops is when they see cops driving along, what do they experience? What do they feel?
It's nervousness and fear.
There you go. For me, that has not really been my experience. But that's, again, for me. And I guess I'm the minority.
Yeah.
The majority, when the cop drives by, they're afraid.
Yeah.
Why are they afraid? Is that just because of what the media has put out there, or is that because of the experience at large?
Oh,
And
that's going to a deep conversation. If
There
you guys
you
want to
go.
go into that, we can do it. But
But-
if you don't, then we
I-
gotta stay on the topics because I will go off on that.
But again,
This is the same.
just to skim it over.
Okay.
My point being, if that's the experience of the majority, clearly there's an issue there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I think that it needs to be an ongoing conversation.
Absolutely.
We're not going to come up with, anybody who thinks that we're going to come up with a solution overnight, I got news for you. It's not going to happen. This has been happening for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Persecution
Longer.
and prejudice and racism is not something that's going to apparently just be addressed overnight and be fixed.
Yeah.
We need to have conversations, and we need to get people to understand one another. And that's not an easy thing.
No, not at all. Well said.
Sorry, I'm about to take the mic, but I had to write down a certain note that
Oh, okay.
I definitely did not want to forget, and
Okay.
it kind of speaks into what that you were going to. I want to stick on the subject of the defunding of the police,
Okay.
and I will remind people, even though it's taken a while for us to get back to that idea, I don't actually believe that should happen. I'm just making a case for it.
Oh, defunding the police?
Yeah.
I
So-
hope they do it. I'm
So-
the person that I'm of the belief that they should.
So I'm going to get into what I call the Andrew Schultz argument. Okay, Andrew Schultz, he does a podcast. He does
Brilliant-
two
Brilliant
podcasts.
Idiots.
He does Brilliant Idiots with Charlemagne the God, and then he does another one that he calls Flagrant 2.
Yeah.
And so the Flagrant 2 podcast is where I saw this on. And so basically, specifically in regards to the George Floyd incident and what is going on in the U.S., he was talking to somebody, a friend of his, that works in the military. And so in the case of the Iraq War, what happened was there was a shift and how the police, the military, had to handle the situation. So basically, they said that instead of winning the war, and winning the war means that you just kick down doors and you shoot people and you're heartless and you just do your job and whatever like that. They changed the mentality from just winning the war to winning hearts and minds.
Okay.
And when you change that mentality to winning hearts and minds, what that means is when you kick down that door, you cannot automatically shoot. You have to assess the situation. And yes, it puts you in more danger, but that is the job and that is what you signed up for. And if you can do that in another country where everybody doesn't look like you, why can't you do that at home?
Yep.
And that is my argument. So if police institutions are not teaching this to people, and that should have been the fundamental thought, that should have been the fundamental training initially. Why? Sorry, I'm getting all in it right now.
Finish your point, man. Finish your point.
But yeah, if they cannot do that in America, in Canada, then there's a serious problem. And it probably comes from the fact that the entire idea of policing comes from slave patrols.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's something that needs to be overlooked. And look, I am not a conspiracy theorist, okay? I don't necessarily believe the government wants to keep us inside to put up 5G towers and everything. Along those lines, I'm not that dude.
Just rolled my eyes all the way.
We cannot get into that. We cannot get into that on here. But what I do believe, okay, is that to some degree, white supremacist groups are in fact white.
Yeah.
Meaning, can they insert themselves into police institutions and have an effect on how policing is conducted? Absolutely.
100%.
And I will never, ever, ever back down from that argument. And if you don't believe me, PBS put out an article where the FBI said that this would become a problem and is an ongoing problem because there's no way to discriminate from those facts.
Yeah.
So when I say defund the police, it's because the institution can be corrupted.
Is corrupted. It's a fact.
Is corrupted.
It's not something that's debatable.
So when we get into that, this is a crazy idea. I'm going to throw out crazy ideas right now. Why not? And people, this is just a discussion that we're having. If you disagree, if you want to conversate about this, sorry, I'm going to curse right now. Just fucking message me.
We're
message
not
me.
Political pundits. We don't sit on the computer all day researching different articles and papers, and we get the news just like everybody else. We have our own particular perspective, and that's all we're doing. We're just sharing it. We are definitely not immune to being wrong. So if we're wrong, call us out. Trust me, we can handle being wrong.
This is
It's
our
fine.
platform.
Yeah.
It's how we choose to voice our opinion. If you have an opinion, you have a platform.
Yeah.
All those social media aspects that we were talking about, use it.
But when you do choose to voice it, make sure you come at me with numbers.
Oh my God.
Because I got numbers.
All right. Let's move along.
I thought we were talking about defunding the police.
Yeah. Are we done with that one?
I'm sorry. I just wanted to bring up a couple more points on that subject. I mean, we're only 45. We're only 45 minutes in.
We are okay. All right, man.
I don't want to. I thought that this would be a long podcast, anyways.
It's an important topic.
Okay. There is $20 billion that goes into the criminal justice system, from cops to prison to lawyers to everything else. Basically, there's an entire economy that revolves around criminal justice.
Yeah.
So there is a business when it comes to crime.
100%. Yeah.
My problem with that is the ultimate goal of policing and of justice is so that we don't have to enact it at every single turn.
Yeah, but once you make it a business and into in a capitalist society, what do you think's going to happen?
Oh no!
They're
Yo,
gonna grow
you're
by
preaching.
any means necessary. That's what
You're
capitalism is.
you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Right now, to that point, I can specifically say in America, they are not focused on reformation.
No.
They are not. And
it's a
it's not just
business.
me. People do your own research.
Yep.
Come up with your own opinion. But they are not concerned. They do not make it a priority to reform criminals. What they do make it a priority to do is to make sure that they are housed.
Yeah.
That's the priority.
100%.
And what many of you don't know is that criminal labor is cheap.
Yep.
Criminal labor is cents on the dollar.
Yep.
All those people doing those monotonous tasks, stamping those plates, you think that it's just in the movies? No, I'm here to tell you that it is real.
Oh, yeah.
There is real money to be made in the privatization of crime.
Yep.
Many jails right now are privatized.
Yep.
They are moving
I was gonna
from
bring up that fact.
They're moving from a central system, centralized and governed by the government, to a more privatized based system. Why? Because privatized is cheaper.
Yep.
And how do you think privatized companies cut costs and make their buck back? It's by turning it into labor.
Yes.
So if you have private organizations not focused on reform but focused on labor, what do you get? You get a vicious cycle, because as soon as somebody does their bid, does their time, gets out, they have not been equipped with the proper tools to what's the word I'm looking for? Reintegrate them into society. They're not ready for it.
Yeah.
I
It's just
don't want to
simplification.
get into that today because I feel like that's its own separate argument, and we could be here for 2 hours. That's
Yep.
actually the next point that I wanted to get into, but I thank you for bringing it up. But basically, based on everything that you just said, it's the new slavery, and because it's the new slavery, who does that affect most of all?
Let me just give a quick, and we can close it up. Just put a button on it real quick, and until next time. That's exactly what happened. And you said the new slavery. It's the new slavery, and it literally is not something that's completely new. Like, we're just discovering that it's the new slavery. When slavery was ended, and all the slaves were free, they didn't have skills. They couldn't go and get jobs, like, in order to be successful, in order to contribute to society the way that people would expect their fellow civilian to contribute to society. So they went back to work on plantations, or if they didn't, they were arrested for whatever reason. Like, they literally kept all the rules that they had throughout slavery, which is like, if a black person is loitering, they go to jail, or whatever. Like the smallest thing, for using a wrong fountain, you go to jail. If you walk into a restaurant that there is no blacks allowed, you go to jail. They built a system of laws meant to criminalize black people, specifically in the United States.
That was
to put them in jail. And then what did they do when they went to jail?
I'm sorry.
They used their labor.
I think we're referring to the Jim Crow.
Well, yes,
that's
the Jim Crow. Yes,
that's the Jim Crow.
It's literally Jim Crow is literally just to reinstate enslavement of black people. That's literally what it is. It's literally just because they can't. If America's a business, they can't just let those plantations just die. That's what all their wealth was accrued from. Is literally the plantations. Right? They're not going to just let them die. So they have to figure out another way. They're like, we need to bring back slavery, but not call it slavery. We're going to come with another name.
Imagine this. You have a large, even in today's world, you have an extremely large labor force. Pick any industry that you want to choose. You have an extremely large labor force, and then all of a sudden, everybody just quits.
Yeah.
That whole economic sector is just going to crash.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you need the guy on the bottom of the total pole, the last rung, to assemble that part, or dig that hole, or build that trench, build that wall, stack that brick. Somebody has to contribute from a physical labor standpoint. And if you have millions of people not doing that, what happens?
It collapses. And they should have let it collapse.
Facts.
But then who knows where we would be? But still, we would be somewhere better than here.
I'm not defending it, but Jesus Christ, when you think of where we are, it was so much in its infancy that they could have let that shit go.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
Well, but you think about that from today's perspective. Back then, that was the world.
Yeah.
yeah.
But we gotta shelf that.
We gotta shelf it. Yeah.
We'll come back.
So I just want to just put that on there so you understand that,
Anyways,
Jalen
I'm gonna
is
put
coming over here.
one last point on this. Like, I'm not gonna speak on it anymore. But the goal of this society should be to get to a point to where these institutions are not needed. We're supposed to be trying to create utopia. This is the ideal that we see in books, that we see in TV shows, that we see across the board. So when we see how these institutions are being used and how there are increased budgets, like increased budgets to mean that you're failing in some way or another. It's not that you don't need more resources. It's just the fact that when it comes down to it, if things aren't going down, if you aren't needed in a lesser capacity, then how is it not failing? Why do you need more? Then what really is your role? You're not really a deterrent.
No, you're right.
And again, somebody can argue that with me on numbers, and I'll come at you. Don't worry. I'm here.
All right,
All
next
right.
topic, bro. We covered that one.
So what point we're at? We're at like 51 minutes now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What's up? White privilege. Let's get into it. All right. So,
Is that it? You tell me.
yeah, man, I'll throw one out there.
That's a
You know what
topic.
I mean?
Let's go.
If you want to go, let's go.
I think a lot of people are coming to the conclusion that white privilege does indeed exist, and me being a Jamaican, living in Canada.
We all Jamaican, by the way.
Yeah.
Whoa. For those of you listening, I am Canadian Jamaican.
Yes, okay. I'm Canadian Jamaican too.
The only
I'm
real Jamaican at the table is Drew.
Okay.
He was born there.
Okay.
The rest
True.
of all, y'all,
All
I'd
right.
front.
Oh no, I was born here, but it's
I'm
my
ready.
background and what people see.
I'm ready to go. I don't want to get too deep into all that, but I'm just gonna say, listen, as a Jamaican, as a
You
black
can't
person
keep
in
a good
Canada,
man down.
growing up here, there are certain gates that black people were not allowed, or black people, in my experience, are not allowed to go through, right? And I'm not talking like actual physical gates. I'm talking like metaphorically. The thing about white privilege is that it's almost like a ghost. You know what I mean? It's almost like, say, it's a physical presence to me that I can see as clear as day. But when I point to it, to a white person, or even another person, even other peoples of color, who may not necessarily think that it exists as well, which is a shame because that there are many of those out there. They don't see it. They don't see it. And the fact, and this is a gem in itself, the fact that I have to explain what white privilege is the privilege itself. You know what I mean? That's an unagi moment. That's a little too deep. But I'll talk a little bit about myself. Growing up, there's been many instances where I felt inferior as a black person, just being in black skin in Canada.
Hey.
And I didn't really completely comprehend why. And I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I was saying, like, I have like shout outs to her. I'm not gonna put her name out there. I have a complex with women. And it all stemmed from my youth, from I think I was 11 years old, and I had this huge crush on this like white European. I don't know what her background was, but she was white. And when I went to talk to her, she was always flirting with me and stuff like that. So I was under the inclination that she liked me, but then when I went to ask her out, she said no. And then I went, why? Like, why do you not want to go out with me? And then she said, it's because you're black. At that point, I knew I was different. Obviously, physically, I was different. But that was an awakening of me realizing that I'm black. That's how I understood what that, like, what I understood what my standing to other people in their mind, what my standing was to them, you know. And for a long time I took that standing as what I understood myself to be. I allowed them to define my blackness and what that meant as something that was bad, and all the color black is negative, and what's it called? The police look at black people as thugs, and they're gangsters, and they always do bad things, and they're responsible for most of the crime. And
Please keep on that. I just only want to interject one thing. Okay. I think a big part of that is to portrayal and what people see, the classic roles of black people in movies and TV and everything like that. Because they only know what they see, and if they have no actual interaction because they live in certain neighborhoods, then based on what they see on TV is what they come to expect. Black people do these things, police are meant to take them away.
I call bullshit, and I know that's a firm stance.
That's fine.
That's a firm stance.
That's
I don't mean to disrespect you, but I have a firm stance on this. We're people. You know what I mean? We deal with people all the time. Like, that's what most of our interactions are with human beings. We're people. That's just the fact. It doesn't matter if someone gave you a preconceived notion of someone. What makes you think that they deserve the treatment that they're getting, like the negative treatment that they're getting? Just because you see a depiction of someone, or someone looking like something, doing something, it doesn't mean that you automatically can just clone that perspective of them onto another completely different human being.
Hold on, you
see what I'm saying?
You gonna make me tap into my psychological not achieved degree.
And this is why I chose to be a little bit aggressive when it comes to that, to white privilege and talking about that. And this is a recent standpoint that I've only had in the past maybe 5 years. People need to hold themselves accountable. It's not, I don't want to hear I'm a victim of my circumstances. I grew up with this, that, and the other. Because when we say that, they say, what's it called? What's the saying? Help me out here. Pull your shoes by your bootstraps or something shit like that. They say that shit. You know what I mean? I didn't even know what the fuck that meant. They say that shit to me. You know what I mean? Overcome. Right? That's what they say. But if we go back and we look at everything, this is a system. It's a system meant to hold people down. And the people that fall victim of the system, boo-hoo, you're fools of the system. This is a fact. And if you're understanding that now, you wake up, cool. We're homies. You know what I mean? If you wake up and you understand that you're fools of the system and it's time to change, that's cool. I love that. But don't come like, I didn't know before, because you had every opportunity before. It's not something that is absolutely alien to treat a human being like a human being. You know what I mean? Because you are, like, even though we're all Jamaican, but at the same time, we all are individuals. You have a completely different life than I have.
Facts.
I have a completely different life than you have. You know what I mean? I am a black man, but I am more than a black man at the same time.
Hey.
You get what I'm saying? So it's the fact that if they don't look at all of themselves as a block of white people, they don't look at like Fred doesn't look at Bronson that like they're the same person. You see what I'm saying? They don't relate to each other that way. So why do they relate to a whole entire race of people in the exact same way? Why they're gonna have the exact same assumptions over a whole race of people? It's you're a fool of the system. And it's time for you to wake up. That's my firm stance on white privilege.
Yo, I am not disagreeing with anything that you just said. Okay? But when I was learning about psychology, what they taught me was that people have these things called schemas. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but schemas are basically, you can basically picture schemas picture them as squares, picture them as boxes, and basically, if something or someone does not fit into your schema, basically your natural instinct is to create your own narrative of what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this goes back into my portrayal argument. I feel bad because I'm gonna call my dude out from work.
Oh gosh.
No. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's not like that.
By name?
It's not like that.
Okay.
It's not like that. This is an Indian man. He's Sikh. He's Punjabi.
Okay.
His name
Shout out to the
is
Sikhs out there.
his name is Gurnam.
Gurnam. Okay.
Gurnam. G-U-R, N as in Nancy,
Okay.
A-M as in Mary.
Okay.
And every day while he's on the phone, he'll go and he will talk so eloquently to people. Like, he has a very good command of the English language and his understanding of, like, the products that he sells, and with no accent.
Yeah.
But then he'll go and he'll be like, when they ask for his name, he'll be like, my name is Gurnam. Now, when they call back,
Yeah.
when people call back, there's 3 of us at the desk. Okay? So when they call back, what happens is, I was talking to a guy, I think his name was Gordon. I think his name was George.
Yeah.
I think his name... Bro, one time, I swear to God.
Okay.
I swear to God.
Wow.
Yo, I was talking to this guy named
Oh man.
and they fucking trailed off.
Poor Gurnam, man. Jesus.
But basically what it comes down to, if the idea does not fit to what you do not necessarily know, it has to be challenged.
Yep.
It has to be challenged. And you are not necessarily the person that's open and receptive to challenging it. It just has to be challenged as a whole, probably by another party. So I get everything that you're saying, where people need to be understanding and people need to be receptive of the information. But what I'm seeing, what I would have hoped from people is that they could just see, and that would be it.
Yeah.
What's happening is, I think they are receptive to that information, but they don't understand it. It doesn't fit into what they know. It doesn't fit into this box. And it's up to us to challenge it at every single instance.
All right.
And that's what we have to do now.
Sorry, Mark.
I got an analogy.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Jump in.
All right. So,
Is it better than girl?
no. To that I will say.
That's a damn shame, man.
At work, my voice is on the call-in line.
Okay.
My voice.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm the IT guy.
Yeah.
I set up our VoIP system.
Okay.
We needed a call. We needed a voice.
All right. Yeah.
I was the voice.
Yeah. Oh,
Now,
I can see that.
we have had instances of people call in and they didn't leave a message on the call-in line. When that occurs, HR follows up and says, you didn't call in. I kid you not, it's happened more than once.
Yeah.
They say, absolutely I did.
Uh-huh.
I know, because the call-in line has the voice of a white guy. What does a white guy's voice sound like?
I don't know.
What does anybody's voice sound like? How do you know the race of somebody over the phone?
Yeah.
Because of a voice.
Yep.
You have no way to know.
Because black people sound like this, sonny. That's what it is. They expect that shit. They fall victim to their fools of the system.
I'm presenting the information.
Yeah.
Interpret it as it.
Oh, for sure. No, it just
Now-
falls to what I'm saying. People are fools of the system. Sorry, go ahead, man.
Now, I will say this. If you ever seen the movie, I don't know, was it... Maybe it was, it might have been iRobot. Where they're driving down and they have projections.
Okay.
On the side of the road.
Yeah.
Of a utopian world.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
everything is green and whatever. But you look outside the projection.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
black.
wasteland, yeah.
Wasteland.
Yeah.
Dead. I will say this. if you are not necessarily a person of color, and while I don't entirely agree with you, Crew, I'm sorry.
No, for sure. You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah. I will say that if you walk around the entire world and you have a projection going on in front of you where there's your interpretation of the world versus what's actually realistic and what's going on, you might never see it.
Yeah.
Because if you look and you see your projection, you're projecting what you think the world looks like, and then there's what the world actually looks like, right? Because they're not suffering from that deficit.
Okay.
They don't see the world the way you do because they're on the pedestal looking down.
100%.
If you're looking up at the pedestal, of course you're gonna see differences. But if you never are given the opportunity to see those differences, how do you address them?
But that's my...
Sorry,
go ahead.
hold on.
Go ahead,
Let me
go ahead.
finish.
All right.
Let him finish.
I believe that we need to give people the opportunity to see the differences.
Okay.
You know what? Some will argue, like you, that they've had every opportunity.
Okay.
You know what? I'm gonna be the better man or woman or whatever you want to say, and I'm gonna give you this opportunity now. Okay. Because if you could argue before that you didn't see it, but if anybody is to come to me now and say, I didn't know white privilege existed, bruh.
All right. I'm gonna lay it down. When did Black History Month start? When did that start? I don't even know. I'm not posing the question to you. I don't even know. When did it start?
I know.
When did that shit start?
I'm like, I know it's in February.
Are you gonna Google that right now?
I'm doing a quick Google right now.
I'm gonna continue on for the sake of time. So, every February, we are educated on many things that have happened in the past 200 years, 100 years of Black people in North America, whether Canada or the U.S. Right? Right or wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
There's so many different images that I've seen every single year of people getting mowed down by dogs during the civil rights movement. Or you have the answer?
All right, so I'm going to give you guys a little precursor, just a quick Google Wikipedia check. All right, so the precursor for Black History Month was Negro History Week.
Negro History Week,
which came about in 1926. That was the initial phase. And then 1929, we had Negro History Journal. And then through the 1930s, we continued with Negro History Week. And then it looks like somewhere along the 1930s, I'm just skimming, it was somewhere founded at that point.
Okay, so there's awareness there that there was a tragic, not even a tragic for us, for Black people, event that happened for over the span of 300 odd years, right? Over 400 years ago, and we've only been out of slavery for how long? Just over 100 years?
Sorry, correction. It was 1970s.
1970, okay. 1970, okay.
Well, let's see. I'm not sure when they've been free, but civil rights. And I want to emphasize the word civil.
Yeah, civil, exactly.
Only happened in the 1960s.
Exactly.
So.
And before that, there was some shit. Jim Crow.
It's only it's been less than 100 years when we've asked people to be civil.
Yeah. And I've learned many things just through 1 month of education about Black history. And it's all bad. All of it is bad.
Yeah, of course it is.
No, but this is my point.
Of course it is.
We're sitting here laughing. But for context,
we're all Black.
It's
what it is.
And we're laughing because it's true.
It's true.
And
it's all bad.
It's not that funny.
It's all bad.
It's not that funny. There's never anything positive. Let's be real here, though, Lee. There's never anything positive to be said about Black History Month.
Yeah.
It's always about how many martyrs we have for
exactly.
history. It's all about martyrs.
It's all about people getting.
Do we have any living legends?
People fighting for the freedom of Black people and getting killed, or people just being innocent as fuck and getting killed. You know what I mean?
Or being thrown to jail.
Whether it's Emmett Till,
or
if it's Tamir Rice. You know what I mean? There's so many instances of absolutely horrific wrongdoings of Black people in America. And then people try to distance themselves going, that was a long time ago. That shit doesn't happen anymore. How many Black people gotta die for you to stop saying that shit? You know what I mean? Because
Facts.
I'm gonna be real honest with you. I've been beat up by the police. I've been body slammed. You know where the old Bramalea City Center is?
Yeah.
I've been where the bus station was leading into the mall. I got body slammed onto the hood of a car by a police officer there. I've seen my friend get body slammed on his own property by a police officer. I've been wrongfully arrested, held. I've had tons of shit happen to me just because I'm black. A lot of people know me. They know I'm not a person to be mixed up. Or if you don't know what that means, I'm not a type of person to be in like in a negative environment that people are doing wrong things. But it still happens to me. This shit still happens to me. You know what I mean? That's a fact. And things happen there's worse things that happen to other people every single day. Every single day. It's not something that just happens every so often. George Floyd got killed. That's an anomaly. No, that's not an anomaly. You have to understand that when you see something like that, for every George Floyd, there's another 100 black people going through wrongdoings by authority figures.
Facts.
Because of a system that's meant to oppress. That's just the fact. And you're not blind to it. You're making yourselves blind to it. This is why I keep coming up with the phrase fools of the system. You're deluding yourselves into believing that it's not as bad because you don't want to feel the guilt, because the guilt would overwhelm you. And that's the problem. It's not a matter of they don't know. People have been made aware of many times.
I would say
something.
something.
Philando Castile. There's a Facebook
Christ.
live video.
He's bringing this up.
There's a Facebook live video of the man doing everything that you're supposed to do, killed in front of his child and his girl on Facebook Live. What happened? The cop gets off. Do you see what I'm saying? No one did anything then. Like, I'm almost numb to this shit now. And that's my perspective. And there's a lot of black people that are numb to it because it's just like, honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, you're talking about watching the footage of George Floyd. I can't even watch that shit. This time has been a very fucking hard time for me because all I'm seeing is black people that look like me, people that look like my uncle, people that look like my cousin out there just getting filleted by the police. That's all I'm seeing. And then it's even worse when I see my people go out to the protest and then they're getting disrespected on top of that, fighting for a just cause.
Yep.
That's hard, man. It's taxing. It makes me tired as fuck. And it's wrong. And there's no excuse for it. And I know people say, I didn't know. But you had every opportunity to know. You're ignorant because of you. Not because people haven't been screaming to you about this shit the entire time.
I will say this to his frustration. I might not agree entirely with what he's saying in terms of people who are aware and not aware. Mm-hmm. But I will agree that enough's enough. Mm-hmm. I think that everybody needs to be more aware. They need to be more conscious. And I'm going to steal a quote from James Baldwin. Mm-hmm. There's a clip of James Baldwin. He's a very famous black author who was very influential. Yeah. Yep, so look him up. There's a specific clip about him talking about change and equality at the time. And basically, the interviewer says, these things take time. Mm-hmm. James Baldwin goes on to say, time? What kind of time do you want? You want my time, my niece's time, my dead uncle's time? How much time do you want to make these things settle? And I'm paraphrasing, that's not the exact quote. But it's super powerful, and basically what it speaks to is that, again, I think this was the 80s or 90s where this clip was recorded. That was, 30, 40 years ago? Yeah. And the three of us are sitting around this table talking about the same shit right now. So things have not changed. Yeah. So when we have protesters out there yelling and screaming and taking a knee, we're asking for change. Mm-hmm. We're calling for change. Now, does that change for me involve violent actions? No. No. Do I agree with the rioting? That's a whole other thing. I'm super pissed about that. I won't even get into that.
That's a whole other conversation.
I think that's taking away from...
I got the conspiracy.
You guys want
hold on, let me finish.
I'm not gonna say pro writing, but I'm not against it at all.
I have a whole other thing to talk about with that.
Sure.
It takes away from who we are and what we're trying to deal. But what I will say is that we need to have conversations, and you need to listen.
For sure.
Amen.
You need to listen. And if you're not of color, if you're not a POC, People have been throwing that around on Facebook.
Yeah.
People of color.
Yeah.
You need to listen.
Yeah.
You need to be made aware.
Even some POCs need to listen right now.
You need to
and when it's your time, we'll listen. But and I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone or any race. But right now, we're focusing on the inequality of black people in the United States and Canada.
And Europe.
And that's what we're focusing on right now. And I understand that there are other injustices happening among other races and their treatment in the system. But right now we just need to focus because that's the only way we're going to be able to get stuff done. You know what I mean? And I want to give I know I'm speaking with a lot of fire in my tone, but I do recognize the people that are coming out and are learning and are turning, they're changing their ways and trying to understand more and now have taken that filter off of guilt and put it to action. They instead of being rendered useless and just feeling guilty and deluding themselves, they are now putting in action. We put do not disturb on our phones, and what do we get? Old school technology interruption.
All right.
That was my dad too.
Hold on, Pops.
That was my dad calling out. Like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, I don't know if he's upstairs or
I
whatever.
think I seen him boogie when I came in here. I seen him driving off with somebody.
Well, if he was
I don't
driving
know
off, he
what's
should have
next
keys.
I don't know what's next on the agenda, but I want to throw this out there.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Let's talk about genuine versus ungenuine. Let's talk about that.
Okay, sure.
I don't know if you guys know where I'm going with this, so let me.
No,
Go for it, bro.
there.
All right. So
It's a good topic.
It's your podcast too. Go for it, man.
we got corporations coming out left, right, and center
Yep.
saying we support the movement.
Oh yeah.
What movement exactly do you support? When you're coming out and you're saying we support you people, you matter. Okay, but are we just mattering now? We didn't matter before?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that's basically what they're saying.
There are tons of companies that I could name. I have a huge list of companies, large corporations, $1 million corporations that have come out of nowhere and posted some press release, simply stating, we support you. You can take your press release.
You're about to get me heated.
You can take your press release and you can... Anyway.
Shout out to the NFL.
Right. I mean, hey, they're number one on my list.
Man.
They're number one on my
me too.
list. Even, I was watching some footage today concerning NASCAR.
Okay.
And Formula One.
Oh.
What do you guys know about NASCAR and Formula One?
I know. Well, I don't know of any black race car drivers in NASCAR because that's the only thing that I would know.
Yeah. There's one.
And then,
there's one in Formula One, I believe.
There's a couple,
right?
Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah.
Which one's is it Formula
But
One
in
that's bigger?
Formula One,
Yeah,
Formula One has
national.
Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
Which is like he's the fastest
Yes.
driver.
Yo,
Everybody knows that.
He's a dude.
right?
Yeah.
And even if
He's
you
the
don't
man.
know about Formula One, you know Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
Right.
But what I will say is that those specific racing organizations are predominantly
White.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not being racist. It's
No,
a fact.
not even anything else.
yeah,
It's not
there's
like
no
it's like.
secret.
It's white.
Yeah.
And is now for the most part, I can see NASCAR. It's mostly no Formula One is mostly European influenced.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Whereas in the States, NASCAR is pretty much it's an American thing.
It is American. It's very
American
national.
thing.
Yeah.
So why is it that Formula One has more black people than NASCAR does? Is it just because it's too AKA expensive to get into? Is it a monetary issue?
I think Formula One's isn't Formula One much more expensive than NASCAR?
100%.
I was gonna say I don't know anything, but I can tell that.
But within the two race bodies, you have very few people of color.
Yeah.
And why is that? I'm just asking the question, putting it out there.
There's a margin.
Well,
obviously,
I would put it to you like this. It's probably the same circumstance as far as tennis and golf. The people that we see that dominate, and don't get me wrong, they dominate, but they are anomalies. Serena Williams is an anomaly.
Yeah.
Venus, before Serena said that, yo, I'm better than you, was an anomaly. Tiger Woods is just definitely an anomaly.
Yeah.
Even I'm sorry, VJ Singh, he had
VJ
like
Singh, yeah.
he had like a
Yeah,
he had
he
like
was
a
dope
dope
too.
year.
Yeah.
He was
Yep.
dope. Yeah,
It was
Like
You
he had like
guys
he had like a year or two.
Jacket, yeah.
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 But those are anomalies
Yeah.
in sports that are very, very expensive. I'll tell y'all a little bit about me.
Let me get back before. I
So
gotta segue back
Yeah.
to my main.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wait, segue back.
Someone-
I may not
someone-
come back to it. I may not come back to it.
Yeah.
I may not come
Where I
back
was
to it.
going with this
But
was
go for it.
Bubba is a driver.
Okay.
He's an African American driver.
Oh, okay.
He was on a podcast.
Yeah.
And they were talking about this.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, within like 2 days, I get a press release.
Yeah.
Saying from mostly Caucasian drivers
Uh-huh.
saying we support you. We'll listen.
Huh.
Now who influenced that? Why did that come out?
Yeah.
Did that come out because you're genuine?
Yeah.
Or did that come out because the body at large
Yeah.
forced you to put that out?
Exactly.
Now, I'm not
That's- yeah.
saying that the people
It's valid.
on the actual video don't genuinely feel what they feel. I believe that they do. I think
Yeah.
that it came from a good place. But why are you just releasing it when forced?
Yeah.
What happened to the genuine article? What happened to being real about what you're saying? I mean, we could talk about Trump and the whole Bible thing and the photo op.
Yeah.
But I won't even
Different
go there.
conversation.
That's a whole.
Well, it's Trump's Trump,
Right? What-
Yeah.
There's no explanation
Yeah.
needed for that.
Yeah.
What I'm outraged about truly is the fact that all these people are coming out of the woodwork now, so they're not vilified on
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
So they don't get a bad rap.
Yes.
So that their market shares and their total revenue for the quarter don't drop. So their shares aren't diminished. That's what my issue is. They're not genuine companies. Listen, if it's not real support, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I was better off without it.
Yeah. That leads me to the Blackout Tuesday shit that they had recently. And that had me having the same debate with myself, with many people that were like, I'm just going to put a display picture with just a black background and then now I'm supporting. And to me, it's like, it's something, but I just didn't like that it's too easy. You know what I mean? That's something that people do anyways in terms of they just change their background. You know? You guys know about Blackout Tuesday, right? Should I put some more context to it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll put context to it because maybe someone who doesn't know about it. Basically, it was a protest to stop your self promotion and to focus on the causes at hand, which are Black Lives Matter, police brutality against Black people needs to stop, basically, and that's what people were doing. And in solidarity, they were blacking out or just putting, instead of their regular profile picture, they were putting just a solid black image on their display picture. And it was cool, but it just didn't seem like real. It didn't seem real hard. It seemed like people could just instantly hide under the veil of something so easy and then be deemed a supporter.
Just jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. And I didn't like that. I wish it was something a little bit more extensive, that more involving.
See,
I would liken that like, first off, I am not diminishing that, and I'm glad for everybody that participated in that. I would say two things to that though. The first thing I would say is I listened to Brilliant Idiots.
Okay.
And
you like these
Charlemagne,
guys, man. This guy.
No. You know what? I'm not necessarily a fan of Charlemagne on
I am.
all the.
I love Charlemagne.
Not on all the things that he says. Some things I don't automatically like ride with, but I'm always willing to hear him out.
Yeah.
That's the literal. Yeah. It's the same thing with Andrew Schultz.
Yeah.
I'm not always like with everything. Like some things that he makes jokes about, I'm just like, I don't think you should be making a joke about it.
He's a typical white guy. He chills with a black guy for a day, and then all of a sudden he's an expert in black things.
Well, I will say I do like hearing his point of view on things, and he also he stands up.
Oh no, for sure.
He stands up. So,
him, but a lot of times the episodes I've listened to, he would legit like tell Charlemagne about blackness and like Charlemagne's arguably an expert about blackness. You know what I mean? Like I would say, and I don't want to like say like, you know, who's black. You're black if you're black. You know what I mean? Everyone who's black is an expert on blackness.
Well,
if you're not black, you're not an expert on blackness.
If they hear this, Andrew's gonna be on Brilliant Idiots.
Whatever. You know, it is. What it is.
I know. He's a perfect person to go on that show. But anyway,
Charlamagne's a radio personality, and to the point where he's speaking of genuine, he doesn't have a radio voice. You know what I mean? He just talks the way homies from the block talk. Like when I go like he uses hood vernacular, but at the same time he's articulate. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I identify with that because that's the way I like to talk. I don't like to talk in the white guy or my, as I call it, the receptionist voice, because my mom, when she was a receptionist, she have a completely different tone, because she wanted to come across pleasing, quote unquote, right? Or white, as I would call it. But anyway, I don't want to get too far away from your point.
But yeah,
your point is
what I was going
topic is a great topic.
What I was going into was first off, they brought up that the branding for the Blackout Tuesday had a negative connotation to it.
Okay.
So a blackout is seen as something negative.
Yeah.
And what they really should have done was call it all black everything.
Perfect.
And that would have probably galvanized more people.
Yeah, to do more things
towards the cause.
Yeah, you'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to shop black, and I'm going to like support all black businesses, and find out who is, you know.
So rather than just go and just post this like this black picture and everything like that, it could have inspired more.
Yeah.
If they had thought about it, but
that would have been perfect. And this is exactly my point. My point is, this is the bare minimum. People are so used to social media. It is nothing for you to go and change your profile picture. It takes how long? On average, what do you think? 7 seconds?
Maybe 15.
15 seconds, but that's it.
4 clicks.
You know what I mean?
Clicks.
George Floyd died. He was suffering for 9 minutes straight. I'm going to just spend 15 seconds to pay tribute. What the fuck is that? I'm sorry. I'm getting too candid, but my point is that there is much more you can do that wouldn't, and you could times that effort by 10, and it still wouldn't even be 5% of your day. You know what I mean? Like, that's my point. So and it would would have 15 times or 10 times the effect.
My love goes out to the people who are doing the whole marching.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 100%. I stand with those people.
They're
going
take
out.
A knee. They're doing the walk. They have their sign.
Yep.
That's being an activist.
Yeah, and you're putting yourself in danger.
That's definitely making your voice heard and making sure that your opinion is known.
100%.
And you're voicing and bringing to people's attention the fact that there's Lee. I'm telling you, I'm gonna beat you with that phone, brother.
Phone is up in this bitch.
I'll beat you with that phone, bro.
I love it though.
You know what? I'm putting this away. I'm putting this in this room.
You don't have a mute? There's no mute on this?
I'm just gonna put this in this room.
All right.
On that note, I think we should close off. I think we should move on to the next topic.
Right.
No. There's one more thing I wanted to say about based on what you said.
You have 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry. It reminded me of the
155.
It reminded me of the Jerry Jones, who, if you don't know, he's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And what happened with him is that everybody was doing the kneel in response to Black Lives Matter. So then he decided that he was going to, go out with his team and for one time do the kneel with all of his team.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
It was, no, there's no more doing this. We made our message clear. So that goes into your point about just people just making appearances, basically, as far as how are you really behind the cause, or are you just posturing, basically?
Yeah.
So, sorry, that is just what that reminded me of at that time.
Okay.
So, we're an hour and 30 minutes in.
Wow.
So yeah, we had a lot to say. So now now
What's up?
is the time to go from the preliminary
Oh,
to
boy.
I need to get into that ring.
It's playoffs, people. It's
Oh
playoffs.
boy, I'm gonna sit back. Get myself comfortable.
No. It's not gonna be like that.
All right.
It's not gonna be like how it was gonna be like.
Okay, you grew.
Cause
Grew. See?
He grew or he softened them up.
How old? Yeah,
I softened them up.
it's pending. We'll see.
I was the target of that the Hemming argument right
Yeah?
there. Oh yeah, man.
Oh, man.
You did
I
some
saw it, but I'm like-
some serious venting went on, man.
Yeah.
Yo,
Okay.
I'm telling you.
it's not that I'm not going to say the things that I want to say. It's just that the how I was going to say them.
Tonology.
The tonology. The tonology
Oh, right.
has changed a little bit. But I still need to have this talk.
Okay.
So, for those who know and for those who don't know, I did have a bit of a I had a Facebook comment type exchange with I don't even know if I should bring up the name.
Nah,
It doesn't make sense. With somebody.
There you go.
Okay? Proud black man. I had an exchange with them.
Shout out to him.
And what this person did was they actually called out somebody that that I know personally. Okay? So how this started was he wanted to post in a particular group and she removed the groups. She removed the comments, seeing them as inflammatory. Okay, but her position was, look,
You have to get a little more specific because, like me hearing it from the outside, it's not providing the proper context. You know what I mean?
Like, sorry,
It's
what
like
do you need
the
to know?
group was a dance. It was a Facebook.
It was a
group for
Facebook
Yeah.
dance group, like based on salsa and bachata.
Yes.
It was
Okay.
specifically just for events.
Yes.
Just
That
for
was the
events.
purpose of events.
For
Yeah.
events. But based on everything that's going on, this individual decided to make some comments and post them that could be seen as inflammatory. And based on where we are, I totally get like the passion, the
Yeah.
anger to put out the message. But at
What
the
was the
same
message though? Because you have to be more specific if we're going to be talking about this in depth. And plus, and
can't-
also, I don't know like the whole story as well, so I'm also learning as we go.
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what he put out there.
Okay.
I only know that this person decided to remove the comments. Okay?
Okay.
But what I do know is when that happened, so the person said, "Hey, I'm going to remove these comments." Well, instead of actually trying to talk to them and say why this is important, they just screenshotted the conversation and just put it out there.
Okay.
Okay, so basically the idea was to shame them publicly, and just say you're a part of the problem, you can't be a part of the solution, and this is why.
Yeah.
So then I intervene and I say, look, I know this person, I'm a black man, okay? I've traveled with this person. This person was my partner. I know them intimately.
Yeah. Dance partner.
Dance partner.
See,
Sorry,
I was like,
dance partner.
You gotta be specific. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
It's I'm trying to help.
This is my dance partner. I feel like I know them well enough where I kind of understand their position. Maybe you should try and have a dialogue with them, explaining why this is important. I did say those things.
Yeah.
As Mark will point out, within my first two sentences, it feels like my first two sentences was read and not my entire explanation because I put thoughtfulness into it.
Yeah.
But basically what happened is the individual did not see that,
Yeah.
did not want to see that, and it turned into like this Facebook exchange where other people got into it as well.
Yeah.
I might have called out people as well because,
Yeah.
like, when you, like, I'm a very, you know me well.
Yes.
You know me better than most.
What does that mean to the listeners?
So my appearance might be that I'm just like this very laid back individual and everything like that.
Yeah.
But if you get me started,
Oh boy.
then I do want war, and I want it with everyone that's involved. That's not to say I won't talk reasonable. I will talk reasonable, and I will have that discussion, and hopefully we can come to a mutual agreement.
Yeah.
But there becomes a certain point where if it goes from talking to all you have to offer is insults
Yeah.
and questioning, like in this case questioning my blackness,
Yeah.
then
Yeah. It's dead wrong.
then I just gotta come at you.
Yeah.
Then I gotta be the goon. Then I gotta be your troll.
Yeah.
Then you basically just lifted this switch that goes in my head, and that's it. I had to calm down from that. It took days.
Sorry. I'm only laughing because I have complete understanding of the context by knowing you.
I did it before.
Not laughing at the situation
I did it before,
itself.
but now I do.
Go ahead.
It took days. But now I feel more level-headed
Okay, you cool down.
about the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as I have to speak about this, and I'm not about to go and get inflammatory, I'm not about to call insults.
Okay. This is being
But-
neck, by the way. For listening, of course.
But what I'm going to say about this is this. And this is the situation, or sorry, this is the thing that the gods being social media brought to my attention that made me want to talk about this more than anything else. So, Dave Chappelle.
Okay. Greatest comedian alive? Maybe of all time?
Arguably.
GOAT. Possibly GOAT. He's in the conversation.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that.
I'll
And he
give you
deserves
that.
it.
I'll give
Yeah.
you
I'll
that.
say
He deserves to be in the
I'll say that.
Man took like a 10-year break, came back, and is right on top. I'll give you that.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. I'll post the video afterwards, but he had a show probably within his hiatus of like 200 it was like 200 people maybe. And he brought up police brutality.
Okay.
And in the crowd, there was what could be described as a Karen.
Okay.
Okay? Basically insensitive to the issues.
Yeah.
Okay? And she was like heckling and she was calling out like, well, life goes on, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I'll post a video so you guys can get your own context.
Her own version of womp womp womp.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, at that point in time, instead of, Dave Chappelle is a comedian. He's armed with, like, defense mechanisms, and he could have just torn this person apart.
For sure.
Instead, he chose to talk. Okay? What he chose to do is talk about his buddy who's from South Africa and how when in South Africa the issues of apartheid was coming up, that there needed to be car bombs, there needed to be riots in order to bring attention to the issue. There had to be this critical mass in order for people to understand.
Yeah.
Then he goes and he talks about a situation with himself. He was in Ohio. He was driving home from whatever. It was night. By himself. Cop pulls him over.
Okay.
he puts his hands automatically on the steering wheel. Cop comes over, and he's like, "Hello, officer. Just so you know, my license and registration are in the glove box. If you need them, I'm going to reach for them." And the cop is like, "I know who you are, Dave Chappelle. That's it's not a big thing, but I know who you are, so you're fine." And I mean, there is a little thing afterward that says, like, where he responds, "Well, why do you need to see my license and registration?" 3 days later, that cop goes on to shoot John Crawford III and kill him.
Yep.
And this is a guy that was in a mall or a Walmart, and he had picked up a BB gun that was not in package, and somebody called and said that he was there pointing it at people.
Wow.
Okay? But really what he was doing was, like, he had the BB gun, and when a little kid would pass by, he was just going like, boom!
Yeah.
Like, kind of trying to be playful. And that cop went in, and there's still debate to this day whether or not, like, they told him to put the BB gun down or anything like that. But they went and shot him. You can look at that, people, if you're listening to this, or you can look to that of Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy with a BB gun, who, if you watch that video, the cop literally got out the car and just, there was no discussion, there was no put it down, literally shot him.
Yep. A boy.
So, it was a boy.
Yes, Tamir Rice was he 11?
He was 12.
12.
He was
Sorry.
12.
12 years old.
Yeah.
So, after that, basically he took this time to explain the situation to this person, and it changed everybody in the room that night. And I screenshotted what he said, because he had a chance to alienate that person after that fact. He could have said, "No, you are part of the problem and not a part of the solution." And this person wanted to reach out and talk to him after the fact. Okay, so I'm just going to read that right now. And basically she says, "I just want to say I'm sorry for what I said, and thank you for educating me. I was ignorant before, but I want you to know I learned from tonight, and I won't say things like that anymore." Chappelle responds, "You're okay. That's all we can ask. Know better, do better. I want to thank you for hearing me and listening. That's your role, and now you know. Now you're part of the critical mass we talked about, and next time you hear a friend say some ignorant shit like you said, it's your job to correct them and share with them what you learned tonight. Then you're no longer part of the problem, you're part of the solution."
It's great.
So here is where my issue with what
That
person A
said, yeah.
said to person B, who I said I know and who I said to have a talk with.
Okay, person A, just to clarify, because we veered away from everything, is the person who would put something on the bachata event.
Person A is the antagonist.
Yes, the antagonist. Yes, exactly.
Person B is the defendant.
Yes.
The friend.
Right.
I didn't want to say antagonist, but okay. Sorry, because,
Right.
it's debatable.
It's that there's a hypocrisy that comes with that message. Because now it's like this. Even if this person wants to say something, basically what you're doing is you've put them into this circle where it's like, okay, well, I don't like what you said to me, so I think you need to shut up and be silent. But then when that person, even if they want to speak up, they don't feel like they can, and they can't defend the things, And then you're going to turn on them eventually and be like, oh, well, your silence speaks volumes. So you've put them in this winnable circle when what you had the opportunity to do was, when encountered with that initial response, that initial hesitation to see your point of view, to educate them and make them feel like they could be a part of this. Because what I've been thinking this entire time is we don't need people to sit back. We need soldiers. It can't just be black. It can't just be every black person.
For sure.
It needs to be white people too.
For sure.
And if your initial reaction is to make them feel like that can't be a part of it, even if they want to be a part of it, they're not going to be willing to speak up, and that hurts the cause.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's all I have to say on it. I didn't go off, did I?
No, you're rather reasonable.
I didn't go off, did I?
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Can we respond or talk about
All y'all
that
can
now?
you can come. How I respond to you,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd say that no one is right or wrong. There's not a right or wrong party in this situation. The reason why I say that is because this all stems from one person educating another person in order to bring them onto their side.
Yep.
That's not necessarily a responsibility. And if you really look at it this way. I am aware that I'm black. How am I aware? No one taught me that I was black. The system showed me that I was black.
Facts.
No one sat me down and said this, that, and the other. You know, I wasn't educated on that fact. Life had to educate me on that fact. And I've had to operate this way in order for me to not get involved in situations that would escalate to maybe my death or my imprisonment. Right? Like, I don't know if you had that talk with black people, or it's either, you know, either your peers or family members who are basically saying, hey, when you deal with the police, just take the path of least resistance, and they may violate your rights, but at the end of the day, you get to go home. You know what I mean? So they go into your pockets illegally. You ask for badge numbers, they laugh you off. You know, stuff like that. That's the education that we have to go through most of the time.
That's not
And
over.
it's unbelievable to the other side. They look at it like it's an episode of Boston Public or something, right? They
I
get
like
the
Boston
benefit.
Public.
They get the no, I just threw something out. They get the benefit of being educated about it from us. So I understand if someone doesn't want to take that route, and it's just, they have every right not to take that route. It's important that education is important and is an effective measure to turn people to the cause. You're absolutely right. But to expect every person that has been has a lifetime of having their spirit brutalized every time they step outside to be among other races other than themselves, and even sometimes their own race. You know what I mean? It's not something that you should have to be like, you were wrong because you didn't educate that person. It's unfair to them as well. And that's my main issue.
Oh, and hold on. I get that, and I'm sorry. Now,
I know you guys are fired up, so go ahead.
now he lit a little bit of a candle. Now he lit
just saying,
now
it's
you
not-
now you
I
lit
gotta
a
say
little
my piece
candle.
before you
Because
interject. though.
I educate, but at the same time, I would never,
Let me respond to
say
this.
you were
Let me
wrong for
respond
not
to this.
educating that person after living the life
So,
that I lived. You know what I mean?
I get-
and I'm not even gonna assume they lived the life that what life they lived, but I know that we have similarities in how they're treated in the overall scheme of things.
I 100% get that, but at the same time, I never said that it's his responsibility. I said it's an opportunity.
For sure.
You can have this dialogue with somebody, okay? And instead of come at me like with respect,
Yeah.
I'm gonna paint this picture that because everybody can see this. It's the episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, okay. And Carlton in the fraternity?
Carlton in the fraternity.
Cool.
He basically O-dogged me.
Yeah.
And basically said I wasn't about the cause because I said why don't you try and have this talk instead of just like shame this person to the point where they feel that they can no longer be a part of this.
100%. I get that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not
Let's
cutting you off. But
can I explain what that episode could be? Just threw an episode out there and people don't really.
You want
know.
backstory?
I think most.
You want to provide the backstory? Cool.
Sure.
Go
All
ahead,
right,
man.
I'm going to summarize it super quickly for y'all.
Yeah.
So essentially, Carlton is Will Smith.
And Will. Yeah. No, you have to do
He's
this. Just
he's Will's cousin. He's Will's cousin.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you watch the show at all, you know that Carlton is. I mean, how else can I put
Privileged.
this? Privileged?
He's black privileged.
He's the person, like they would say, he's the white black guy.
Whitewashed?
Or the whitewashed black
Whitewashed?
guy. Yeah.
Which people should never say.
It's a politically incorrect term. I don't like it,
No, me
but
neither.
it applies here.
Yeah.
So he was whitewashed. So they're going through school, higher education. They attempt to join a fraternity. Will, being black and having a high level of blackness, quote unquote, is easily accepted.
Yeah.
Carlton, because he is seen as part of the system and part of the problem, is blackballed. He's prevented from joining the fraternity. He's given all these difficult tasks.
Yeah. And he does them all.
Does them
Very
all,
well.
flying colors, and they still prevent him from joining. That's your summary right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically,
Thank you.
if anybody's wondering, like, how I view this individual from now on, it's a two-headed snake that I'm dealing with because actually it's probably like a hydra. It's probably three-headed that I'm dealing with right now.
Hydra's more like 6, 7, 8.
Is this I remember 3 for some reason.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm thinking of like that demon dog or whatever. Like
Cerberus?
Cerberus.
Yeah, Cerberus, yeah.
Maybe that had like 3 heads.
Yeah.
On you, bro. That's
Yeah.
Heads
But yeah. My initial reaction was to troll. And I had to pause myself from that.
Yeah, you're human. You're allowed to have that initial
I
feeling.
had to pause myself because I also did, like, while we were having disagreements, I tried to be like, well, why don't I call you and we have this debate on the podcast?
Yeah.
And maybe we can come to some sort of mutual understanding.
Yeah.
And there was no seeing that.
Yeah. Probably
So
fuck your podcast.
just wanted to just like I don't need to fucking debate you.
I'm gonna jump in now. I'm
Go
gonna
ahead,
say
man.
this. I use this saying a lot. Intention versus interpretation.
Okay.
I'm big on that.
That's fair.
or-
That's
I'm-
fair.
I'm
Yeah.
huge on that.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, what you intend for your words or your actions to say or mean, and how the recipient receives it.
For sure.
So, your experiences shape who you are, and they shape how you view the world. So, who am I to sit here and judge how somebody interprets how someone else does or says? That isn't for me to decide.
Yeah.
Because their experiences have helped to shape and create that person. They are unique. Now, I will say this: education, as you both mentioned, it's an excellent tool
Yeah.
in our cause. As Andrews pointed out, education presents opportunity. Opportunity is not mandatory. Opportunity is just that. Opportunity.
Absolutely.
For education to take place and for that opportunity to become something more, you need a willingness from both sides.
Yeah.
You need a willingness to communicate and educate, and you need a willingness to receive.
Steve, exactly.
Okay.
So, and that doesn't just apply within us. I'm going to say us as black
I'm
people
going to-
inclusive.
I'm-
Hold on, I'm
everyone.
speaking.
Yeah.
Hold on.
You are speaking. You are speaking.
Ad-libs only from you, okay?
Exactly. I'm not going to say that it's just us
God.
versus them. That's not what I'm talking about. Even within our own kind, you have to realize that a willingness to communicate is important.
Facts.
If we don't get that, the whole point of this whole argument and us bringing attention to this issue is that we want attention.
Yep.
We want attention, and then the next step is willingness.
Yes.
Willingness to change and willingness to communicate. If we don't get part 2, we'll never get past number 1.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world is screaming right now. That's great. We have attention.
Yeah.
Now we need action. But action is step 3. That only comes from a willingness to take action. We need the 2.
Yeah.
right? So if you don't have a willingness from either party, you're not going to get that.
Yeah.
Facts. But I will say this. The person that was in charge of the group did screenshot me a message they sent asking the first person, like, look, they said, look, I apologize, I was wrong to do this, and I'm looking to figure out how I can help.
Yeah.
How can I be a part of this?
Yeah.
And that person, to my knowledge, has not responded to that message.
Well, we don't know.
And
So we
chose.
can't say anything.
I don't know
Yeah,
this
we
to
don't
that,
know.
but at that point in
Yeah,
time,
we can't really speak to
refused to see that message and be a part of that.
Yeah.
So that's also a part of the issue. Like, you got what you wanted from it and chose to shame, and now there's no going back from
For
that.
sure.
I will say this, though. Was the message a private message, or was it posted for everybody to see?
It was a private message.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's my... I don't know the context of the message. I don't need to know the context.
I want to add something to but
And,
just go ahead.
and I'm sure that it was genuine, but if the issue, we'll say issue, occurred on a public platform, you have to address the issue
Yeah.
on a public platform.
They addressed it twice publicly.
Fair
They
enough.
did address it
Yeah.
twice publicly.
I'm
But
gonna-
but
sorry, go ahead.
sorry. The problem. Sorry, it's not a problem. Sorry. The thing is, when you do the things publicly right away, and Drew Brees, the quarterback, is having this
Oh, gosh,
issue
this guy
right
just
now.
threw like a, this guy.
Out of left field.
We're not going to talk about Drew Brees this podcast.
No,
One more time.
no. We're not gonna get into it.
No time.
We're not gonna get into it. But
That would have been perfect for genuine and
but
and
when you
genuine, yeah.
but when you do those things publicly, I think it can automatically be seen as you're just trying to backtrack and do things publicly. I respect more the contacting privately, because now you're actually trying to listen, and instead of like do a PR move and be like, oh, publicly, you know what, I was wrong, this and this and this is at hand, and let that be the end of it.
Yeah.
You contacted somebody privately to be able to say, look, I was wrong, I apologize, how can I be of help to this cause?
That's a good additional thing, but I do appreciate it happening publicly as well, because that person acknowledges the gravity of the mistake and they're willing to let it be seen everywhere. And I'm going to say this, the situation, because I'm speaking it from the outside, even though I do know the parties involved, if I'm going to be unbiased, I have to look at it like this. You know the person who runs the group. You know her, right? I'm gonna say her. I already said it. It's too late.
My eyebrows
Whatever.
went up. My eyebrows went up.
too late.
It's too gone. I think I
It's too
used the
late.
her in the beginning, so
you
it's
did.
too late. It's too late.
So my point is that you're already biased. You get what I'm saying? And maybe you don't realize that. Maybe you're realizing it now. I don't know. That person does not see or does not know or doesn't have the rapport. Like the person complaining about their post being taken down doesn't have the rapport with the person who organizes that page. You know what I mean? They don't know. So they're basically, you're vouching, but at the same time, they don't necessarily have to accept your voucher. You get what I'm saying?
They do not. They do not.
So it's, and hold on. So bringing it back to not getting a public apology in a way, because they have admitted that they're wrong. It's actually more important. It's if they just went publicly and said that they were wrong, that would be more powerful than 3-4 days in the DMs. You get what I'm saying? Because it's, if you are going to silence someone, then you also, in order to do the reverse, you can't speak in silence with them. You need to be loud about your mistake. If you willingly admit that you are wrong. This person, the person that runs the page, also messaged me and asked me about. She told me a little bit about the situation and asked me what can she do, and I actually told her that she was wrong in this circumstance.
Okay.
And I told her I love her. You know, like she's also one of my dance partners as well. And I just told her that, you know, like you tried to deal with it in a way that you thought was right. So then the good intentions were there, but you came to a realization like a real life realization that you were wrong, and you need to own it. And what you can do is you can educate yourself on the situation, because it was a lack of understanding that revealed that you were wrong.
Yep.
Right? And that's the thing. So the only thing you can do right now is to prevent situations like that happening, and the only way you can do that is to get information. If you are in that situation, if you're a white person and you're in that situation, you can't expect education to come from someone who is on the opposite end of you. If anything, she did the right thing by reaching out to me or to you, because we know her, we're her friends, and we happen to be black. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He doesn't owe her education because he's not her friend. If it was his friend, then maybe he would be more willing to have a different tone with her.
And I do get what you're saying, but the expectation of everybody not like us to be educated is also a form of ignorance. I would see it that way.
I mean, to Andrew's point, Drew, here's what
Go ahead. Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
You talked about white privilege and having to explain what white privilege is.
Yeah.
This is no different.
For sure.
If they don't know, they don't know what they don't know.
For sure.
Right? Unfortunately, I think we're at an impasse here in terms of no matter what said person, your friend might have done.
Yeah.
It could have been interpreted the wrong way.
Could have.
And because what it boils down to is that said party A and B, one person is very angry about the situation at large.
Yeah.
And no matter what your friend did, it could her actions could have been interpreted incorrectly.
Yeah.
There's really no way for her to be right in this situation. Even if she had apologized publicly, people could flip the script and say, you know what, that wasn't genuine.
Facts.
Genuine versus ingenuine.
Yeah, for sure.
They could have said, you know what, she's just backpedaling.
Yeah, but there's no matter what, there's going to be two people saying something on the opposite end. There's always going to be different, varying opinions on whatever situation there is. But what I'm saying is, we've had a lot of people settling. Like that's why I look at it. You know what I mean? Like I look at it as when you take the conversation to the back pages, where now you're not responsible to the public for your actions. That's like settling. That's like, I compare that to like if someone was abused in some sort of way, and then they said, you know what, I don't want to get the guilty verdict, I want to settle instead. You get what I'm saying? I compare it to that. Instead of just letting the verdict come out, saying, hey, this is me, I made a mistake, I'm wrong, I'm growing. That I trust that more. And I think, and I can't speak for the majority, but I feel like the majority would look at that and say that that's more genuine, because it's easy to hide and it's a lot harder to come out and be in the sunlight with your mistakes.
But it goes into my point where it's harder to come out when you've been shamed and posting private messages
for sure
about you after you've been shamed.
But
basically, it's like saying that, you know what? I've decided that you cannot be a part of this anymore.
Yeah.
So of course it's gonna be. I can't even imagine what that position would feel like at this point in time. And what goes into my point is, I never, ever said he was wrong and how he felt.
I know.
I never said that. I've never used those words. You are wrong in how you're feeling about this. The approach can make the difference onto who's on board, who we're gonna have with us in the trenches. Because right now we need motherfucking soldiers.
For sure.
We need them. We need dogs.
For sure.
We need dogs that are gonna go after this.
For sure.
And that approach is just scaring. It can scare people away.
100%.
It can alienate much more
100%.
than it can get people on board.
But not everyone's pragmatic.
Unfortunately,
you know what I mean?
I get that.
We're talking about black people, traumatized people. You get what I'm saying?
I get that.
There's so much nuance to this. We'll never ever be able to get to all of it. But I'm gonna close myself. You guys can finish off with whatever. But what I'm saying is that this is a pragmatic approach to dealing with the problem. And you're right. That's a solution that would work. But, and this is a big but, like a J-Lo but. You
That is some
you
insured
can't-
booty.
You can't expect that out of everyone, and I wouldn't even call them wrong for feeling that way
I
because
never ever
because
said
they're
that.
traumatized and they're dealing with their trauma.
I would never use those
When
words.
you're asking,
That's it.
You're asking,
It's just how they're dealing with
you're
that,
asking
wrong,
a
right
group
or
of
wrong.
People, you're asking a group of people to act, to put aside their anger.
Exactly.
Justified anger. Mm-hmm. And act with a sense of education, a sense of willingness, a sense of growth.
Yep.
It's literally like that allergy, turn the other cheek. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is capable of that.
No.
And you said it absolutely right. The anger is justified. The anger is justified. You cannot tell somebody in this situation, the affected group, how to feel and how to be, because the anger is true.
Yep.
There's a reason for the
Yeah.
anger. And unfortunate as it sounds, there was no way out of this situation. It is what it is.
It was a train crash waiting to happen.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's the way that I kind of saw it,
Yeah.
because eventually along the way of trying to go along this path, I was gonna have to encounter other black people like myself, and we were going to disagree on the method, on the approach,
Yeah.
and who can be on board, right?
For sure.
So
And I'm sure there's things that you may have learned, there's things that he may have learned, because we're all just on our journey trying to figure this out. Like it's crazy the quickness that this exploded into, and what we have to, like, this is what's going on right now. It literally happened in what, overnight pretty much.
Yeah. It's been
You
what,
know-
10 12 days.
Yeah, like I don't want to sound just insensitive by saying it happened overnight, because this has been going on for a long time, and there's been a lot of people who've been fighting this cause for a very, very, very long time, even dedicated their whole lives to it. But I mean, George Floyd, the spark that George Floyd gave to the movement, that kind of just became viral overnight. You know what I mean? That's what I mean.
that's why it's the perfect storm, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that
and everyone's dealing with it.
ultimately conversations, not just within us versus them. It's not really an us versus them, but
Yeah.
among black people and others. I think it needs to happen with black people versus black people, brother to brother.
100%.
We need to, as
Yo.
a whole, get better at communicating and voicing ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not just a case of, I'm angry.
Yeah,
Why are we angry?
Yeah.
What do we now do with that anger? I don't expect my fellow brother to stand beside me in solidarity, but I do expect people to continue to communicate and at least do something.
Yeah.
Find an outlet for that.
Oh my
You
God.
can't just hold it inside yourself.
No.
You got to do something.
because that's why
even
there's
even
riots
when
right
you
now.
and I were just here on Friday, like dealing with technical difficulties, it's not like we agreed on everything. We were just having a conversation, and we're just trying to come to like some sort of like either mutual understanding, agree to disagree. Oh, I didn't see that side of the point,
Yeah.
and then maybe you didn't see things that I had to offer as well. If that's what needs to happen, we don't think the same. We're all individuals, but I do believe that for a united front, to some degree, we need to be on the same page, even if it's not an approach. It needs to be the goals.
Yeah. See, so I feel like this. I don't know. I said I was gonna shut up, but I'm not shutting up. So, I feel like
Man, your time is done. No,
What
I'm
you were
sorry.
doing, what you were doing, you both were protesting in a way. You were doing it in a peaceful way and an inclusive way, and then the other person was doing it in a rioting way. And I feel like, and a lot of people will probably hate me for saying it, but both are necessary.
They are.
Not that I like rioting to the point where people are destroying black businesses or their own community and stopping that. But if
Facts,
you're going to throw a brick
facts.
at the Gucci store or Fendi or Target or whatever, you know what I mean?
Louis
Go
Vuitton,
ahead.
Louis Vuitton.
I'm not gonna
Go ahead.
be mad at it.
Hold on,
And the only reason
Go
why I'm
ahead.
not gonna be mad at it is because those places weren't necessarily for us. They're for the system, and they probably have oppressed. They probably are guilty. I'm gonna go on the ledge and say they are guilty of oppressing our people and continuing the system, the behavior of the system. They haven't stopped and tried to figure out another way. They're only reacting to everything now.
or
Right,
supporting
so-
the communities who are making their shit famous.
Exactly.
No, I'm not with you on
Go
this
ahead.
one.
You
I'm
can.
not
Yeah,
with you
I
on
know
this
it's
one.
an unpopular opinion. I
I
understand.
truly believe. Okay, fine. Even if you are gonna damage a business that you say oppressed our people, why you gotta steal their stuff too? Is that necessary? Why is the mass looting required? It's not. I think
When you
that-
don't have anything for so long, and then you see a lot of people flaunting this separation of riches to when you're poor, because trust me, I lived a lot of my life with my account in the minus. So I'm an expert when it comes to this. When you live your life like that, where you have to scrape a few dollars, like 30 cents, to go get a frozen juice so you can have juice, the luxury of juice, you know what I mean? And then you see someone with like Gucci on, and you can't even imagine how you would take if you took all your assets together, even maybe all the assets, maybe the ones that you own and you don't own anymore. You could only maybe get a purse. Trust me, you're gonna just take that shit to make you feel just a little bit better, make you feel like you belong, like you don't feel like you're a low person scraping along in society.
Okay,
It's
okay.
But
so
that
I get
vilifies
it.
us though. That vilifies us though.
Hey,
First off,
It doesn't lead us. Hold on, let me finish.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow us to present ourselves in the most positive light.
For sure,
I'm
I get
going-
it.
I'm-
I get what you're saying, but I'm saying I'm operating off of the feeling.
'Kay.
This is what we're dealing with. I understand people like you guys are acting like everybody is gonna make the absolute right decisions all the time.
Absolutely not.
Hold
There-
on.
and it's
hold
not
on.
every single protester out there pillaging these stores. But
Okay.
I do understand the mentality of someone who's just who works all the time, has been trying, and they're just in a cycle where they can't gain, you know what I mean? And then they have the opportunity to grab something that they wouldn't otherwise be able to obtain regularly because of a system that is not allowing them easily to get there and allowing others easily to get there.
We are going to cut this off now.
I'm just, all right.
We are going to cut this
Alright.
off now
I'm
because
just
this is
saying.
a completely other point.
All right.
I want to get in my 2 cents. I want to throw my hands in there
Alright,
too.
man.
I got some combinations on this subject.
Okay.
But we are
You guys
too.
I feel you guys right now. You guys are just,
we are.
I have not said my piece.
We are.
I have not said my piece.
We are.
It's coming.
We are.
The storm is coming.
I feel you guys.
We are
right
2
now.
hours
Like,
and 12
Why did
minutes.
you say that?
We are 2 hours and 12 minutes into this.
Yes, we're still.
So we need to cut this off
Yeah.
now. We're going to come back to this again.
Part 2.
all right.
I don't even know if it's part 2. Just call it like this is number 7. It's just number 8.
Okay. Can I close this
the
out?
issue's
then?
not
No,
issue's
absolutely
not going away.
Why?
Absolutely not.
I'm not gonna go on a rant. I promise. Won't be a rant.
It's better for you to close it than me on this day.
I have a feeling the reason why I want to close is because I feel like you guys.
But please, Jesus Christ, do not bring up more.
No, I'm not gonna bring up no more. I'm just gonna say this. These are tough times for everybody. Because like even though this protest is going on, the coronavirus is still out there ravaging our society. And like we can't forget about that. We can't slip because that is still prevalent. So don't sleep on that. Still make sure that you're doing what you need to do to protect yourself, protect your loved ones by, washing your hands and sanitizing yourself and wearing a mask when it's appropriate. And, if you're out there protesting, please stay safe. Just stay safe in general, I'm a religious person, so I'll say my prayers are with you. If you don't want to accept those because you're not religious, that's cool. Because I don't want to impose that upon you. I believe that, we all want everyone, like I can speak for everyone saying that we all want everyone to make sure that you're checking your health, not just your physical health, but also your mental health in this time. Because, being forced to be inside anywhere is rough for everyone. Black, white, Asian, Indian, Native, whatever, any race, whoever you are, human beings, it's hard to just be in isolation on your own. So please reach out to someone if you're feeling like unstable mentally or physically. Is there anything you guys want to add to that?
Nah, man, you said
Yeah.
you're doing the closing.
Oh no, I'm just setting up the. All right. Well, with that being said, all right. Do you have any announcements for anything that we have upcoming going on? Boys doing nothing? What? Barbecue at Mark's house? Social distance? No.
Yo, if y'all bring the food, you can drop it off. I'll cook it for you.
Oh my gosh.
Stay 8 feet away from my grill.
Oh my gosh.
We can talk about it.
All right, man. And a big shout outs to Mark Anthony. Welcome. Proper welcome.
Yo, you had
your
an impactful first day,
exactly,
bro.
Yeah, so this is a big podcast for you to be on.
I think
first
because
this is not. We usually talk about dance topics here. If you're familiar or if you're unfamiliar with the Savage Sunday podcast, usually we talk about everything else and then we talk about dance, but we didn't really get to talk about dance because we can't really dance all that much, and there's crazy things going on in the world. But we will try to get some more dance topics in next week. That's it for me. And anything else? Nothing else? I can close it out?
Yeah, close
All
it
right,
out, bro.
everybody. Peace, love, and blessings to everybody. Take care. We love y'all.